When you think of Minecraft mobs, bosses are probably not at the top of that list. Sure, the Ender Dragon is legendary and the Wither is pretty popular, but those are the only bosses we have so far. So I was very surprised to find out that there are 35 bosses that have appeared in all of Minecraft's different spin-offs. And today we're going to talk about all of them. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to help us reach 10,000 subscribers. There's a poll on my community tab right now where you can vote for the next episode in the Every Minecraft Mob Ever series, so go check that out when you're done watching this video. But without further ado, let's get into the first boss. First up, we have the mobs from the original game. Contrary to popular belief, Minecraft only considers 2 mobs to be bosses. There's no mini-boss category or anything else like it. Evokers, Elder Guardians, the Warden, all of them are powerful mobs, but the game does not consider them to be bosses. I see people grouping these mobs with the Wither and the Ender Dragon all the time, and hopefully that clears things up. Anyway, the Ender Dragon spawns on the main End Island and can be respawned after it's defeated by placing 4 End Crystals on the exit portal. It has a unique song that plays while it's alive called Boss, but you probably didn't know that because it's very, very quiet. It flies in the air, circling around the island. It will stay close to obsidian pillars with active End Crystals, which will shoot white beams at the dragon that heal it. It can fly through and destroy almost every block, excluding indestructible blocks, blocks that spawn naturally in the end, crying obsidian and respawn anchors, and reinforced deep slate. It has the biggest hitbox of any mob in the game, and its hitbox is divided into sections. Hitting different parts of the hitbox does different amounts of damage. It has multiple different attacks. It can dive at the player, which does damage and sends them flying. It will occasionally shoot purple fireballs that have different textures on Bedrock and Java. When they hit the ground, it creates a purple cloud of dragon's breath, which does continuous damage to anyone standing in it. After a while, the dragon will perch, hovering over the exit portal. Arrows can't hit it in this state. If the player is close to the portal, the dragon will spit dragon's breath onto the ground in front of it. It will begin flying again if enough time passes or if it takes enough damage. When you kill it, it will begin to crack and shoot beams of light out of it. It will float towards the exit portal, and when it reaches it, it will rise into the air. When it finally finishes, it drops an insanely large amount of experience orbs, which totals up to 12,000 points, or 68 levels worth of experience. The dragon egg will appear on the exit portal, and the portal will open. End gateways will appear around the island to take you to the outer islands. The Wither is essentially a completely different mob between versions, so this will be a little complicated. Let's start by talking about the things that are the same. The Wither is spawned by placing 4 soul sand or soul soil in a T-shape and placing 3 Wither skulls on top. It takes a few minutes to spawn, and when it does, it will explode and begin flying around. The fog becomes darker while the player is within a certain distance of it. When it takes damage, it breaks all the blocks in a 3x4 radius, except for the unbreakable blocks and reinforced deep slate. It shoots 2 different explosive skulls that inflict Wither. The black one moves faster than the blue one, but the blue one can destroy more blocks and causes a much bigger explosion. They attack every mob except for ghasts and all the other undead mobs. When a mob is killed by it, it will place or drop a Wither Rose, depending on what the mob was standing on. When it drops to half health, a shield appears that blocks projectiles, and it lowers to the ground. It drops another star when killed. Now let's talk about the differences. On Java Edition, the Wither has 150 hearts. When it fully spawns, a noise plays that can be heard throughout an entire server. The individual heads have different targeting systems, and the side heads have a longer skull cooldown. But all of this is relatively simple compared to the Bedrock version. For some reason, it's way stronger. Its abilities change depending on the difficulty. On easy mode, it has 150 hearts, but on hard mode, its health is doubled. It gains a lot of new powerful abilities. It flies above the player, staying just out of reach until it's brought to half health. It then explodes and summons up to 3 Wither skeletons, depending on the difficulty. It will target the player and will follow it through walls. It has a new dash attack that breaks all of the non-blast resistant blocks. This can be very powerful after it's at half health. When it's killed, it pulses and then explodes. The nether star it drops will never despawn. We're not done with Minecraft just yet. In the April Fool's 24W14 Potato update, there's a boss called Mega Spud. It spawns in the potato dimension in underground coliseums. It has a fireball attack and a melee attack. It has 10 phases, plus an intro phase. It starts with a shield that makes it invincible to all attacks, and reflects all of the damage it takes back at the player. This shield is restored after each phase, and new enemies are introduced, which you must defeat to deactivate the shield and damage Mega Spud. Each time the shield activates, it will drop corrupted potato peels. Its surname changes with each phase as well. In the intro phase, it's called Megaspud, Potato Lord of the Fried Legion. At phase 1, it becomes Megaspud, Clucky Contaminator, and it summons 1 chicken. Phase 2, it changes to Toxic Talon Talus, and it summons 2 armadillos. The phases go on like this, changing the name and summoning more and stronger enemies. Every time you damage Megaspud, he gets smaller and faster, and by the 10th phase, he's very hard to hit. When you finally manage to kill it, it will drop Potato-ish, Great Staff of the Peasant. On to the next game, Minecraft Dungeons. I decided not to cover mini-bosses in this video because they're a lot less strong and more common than the main bosses. It's definitely not because there's a lot of them and it would increase the length of this video and the work I have to do by a ton. Besides, I've covered most of them in previous episodes of the series, so you can learn about them in those. The first boss you fight is the Corrupted Cauldron. It appears at the end of the Soggy Swamp level. It doesn't move throughout the fight, relying on its attacks and other mobs to keep you away from it. It will surround itself with purple fire to keep you from getting too close. It will pull dead mobs into the cauldron to regenerate health. Zombies, Vindicators, and pink slimes will constantly be summoned to attack the player. When it's defeated, all of the summoned mobs will die. The Nameless one spawns at the end of the Desert Temple level. You start the fight by approaching his crypt and interacting with him. When you do, he rises up and then teleports away. He attacks using green blasts, which move slowly but do a large amount of damage. He will occasionally pause to charge up his staff, which summons a line of Skeleton Vanguard. He will teleport away from the player to avoid being hit. He will sometimes summon duplicates when doing this, which will attack once and then disappear. The Redstone Monstrosity is the face of Minecraft Dungeons. The devs used it like the normal game uses the Creeper, appearing on all of the promotional material and all over the game. It's first seen in the opening cutscene when the Arch-Illager attacks the Squid Coast village. You fight it in the Fiery Forge level. It attacks by slamming the ground with its fists, spitting explosive lava, and summoning redstone cubes that will roll towards you and do damage on contact. When you defeat the boss, its head will appear on the mantle in the house at the hub. I always thought that was a fun Easter egg. The fake-out final boss and main villain of Minecraft Dungeons is the Arch-Illager. In the first cutscene, we watch him acquire the Orb of Dominance, become king of all the Illagers, and lead the attack on the Squid Coast village. In the non-DLC levels, every time an ambush happens, the Arch-Illager flies over the area, summoning all of the mobs. At the end of High Block Halls, he sits on the throne at the end of the level. When you approach him, he summons one last ambush before teleporting to the top of the Obsidian Pinnacle. When you reach the end of the final level, the boss fight begins. The Arch-Illager has a lot of abilities. His basic attack shoots out 3 purple blasts that do damage. He can summon 3 different mobs at different times. He will summon a circle of 10 to 20 Vindicators and lines of 20 Pillagers. He also rarely summons a redstone golem. He can enchant these mobs like an enchanter. If the player gets too close to him, he will randomly teleport around the stage. He has very little health, but that's because after you beat him, the real final boss appears. The Heart of Ender is a manifestation of the Orb of Dominance's power. You can see the Arch-Illager's body inside of it. It will scuttle around the stage on its 6 legs, leaving a damaging black ooze trail in its wake. It will spit fireballs from its mouth that leave behind purple flames that deal a ton of damage. It will occasionally pause to shoot 4 rotating beams which also do a ton of damage. That's kind of a theme with this boss. It will sink into the floor and then have heads pop out of the ground that shoot these same purple beams from their mouths. When you finally finish it off, the screen will go white for a moment, and then a trail of starry black goo will appear. When you follow it, you will find the Arch-Illager struggling with the Orb of Dominance. After a short cutscene, the orb is shattered and the Arch-Illager is released from the orb's mind control. The Mushroom Monstrosity is the boss of the secret level, which I have no idea how to say. It's just 3 question marks. The boss is a variant of the Redstone Monstrosity that's covered in mushrooms. It slams the ground, just like the Redstone version. It will summon mushrooms to attack the player and will shoot rows of explosive mushroom missiles for long periods of time. The Jungle Abomination is the final boss of the Jungle Awakens DLC. It appears at the end of the Overgrown Temple level. At the beginning of every ambush throughout the DLC, you hear the Abomination's roar. In the boss fight, it will attack you by slamming its right arm into the ground. It will occasionally summon Whisperers or Leap Leaves if it's at half health. It will stab its vine arm into the ground, causing spikes to shoot up around the stage. It will rarely shoot poison darts out in a circle pattern to do damage and poison the player. The Treetop Whisperer is a variant of the Whisperer mob. You find it at the end of the Treetop Tangle level. It was the last boss to ever be added to the game, and it kind of seems like an afterthought. It shares all of its abilities with the normal Whisperer, and it doesn't have any new attacks. It's enchanted with Heal Allies, Huge, and Regeneration. When it spawns, 2 Leap Leaf enchanted with Protection and Thorns also spawn. It can attack the player with its arms, and summon both normal vines and poison quill vines. It can also trap the player in entangling vines, making it so they can't move. When you kill it, you gain access to the treasure room behind it. The Wretched Wraith is the boss of the Creeping Winter DLC. You fight it in the Lone Fortress mission. This is going to be a theme for all of the DLC bosses, but when an ambush starts, you hear it wailing. You start the fight by attempting to take its crown off the ground. It will then teleport into the arena and take the crown back. It will shoot blue fireballs at the player or hits them with a melee attack if they get too close. It can teleport around the stage to avoid being attacked. It has the ability to summon strays, frozen zombies, icy creepers, and normal wraiths. After a few attacks, it will pause, become invincible, and shoot out rows of slow-moving, high-damaging attacks. After it does this, it becomes stunned for a few seconds. When you finally defeat it, it has one of the more unique death animations. It clutches its crown and then explodes. The Tempest Golem is the boss of the Howling Peaks DLC. You find it at the end of the Gale Sanctum level. When ambushes start throughout the pack, a swirling storm will form, and you hear the golem roar. It's one of the more unique bosses. It doesn't move for the entire fight, and it can't be damaged until you fight through 2 Tempest Pillars in the arena. Once you do, its shield will open and you can attack it until you remove 1/4 of its health. It will then reactivate the pillars and activate 2 Squall Golems. Its attacks consist of it using its sword hands to slam the ground and creating lightning tornadoes that launch the player into the air. If you get too close to its shielded power core, the door opens and knocks you away. Once you defeat it, you can leave the sanctum through the pathway it was blocking. The Ancient Guardian came in the Hidden Depths DLC. You fight it at the Abyssal Monument level. Every time an ambush starts in the pack, you hear it make a similar sound to the Elder Guardian. While in the Abyssal Monument, you can see the shadow of it swimming overhead. When you enter the boss arena, a cutscene plays where we see the Guardian break through a wall. It will shoot the player with a laser beam as its main attack. If you get too close, it will poke out its spikes, causing a shockwave. When its spikes are out, doing melee attacks to it works like the Thorns enchantment, making you take damage. It will swim in and out of the arena when you deal damage to it. It can summon 3 different things: Guardians, an Elder Guardian, or Biomines, which explode after a little while unless you damage them enough. It has a fun death animation where it flips over like a dead fish. The final boss is the Vengeful Heart of Ender. It came in the Echoing Void DLC at the end of the Broken Citadel level. Throughout the end levels, we see a weakened form of this mob crawling around. When you approach the final boss arena, a cutscene plays where it enters a black void in the center. When it emerges, it has become the Vengeful Heart of Ender. It will charge at the player and do damage if you're in its way. It shoots out explosive blasts similar to the original Heart of Ender. Some of them cause shockwaves, and some of them leave behind blobs of void liquid. It will shake its body, causing endermites to spawn, almost like it's shedding them. Some of these will be enchanted with sharpness, which makes them have more health and do more damage. If they're still alive after a little while, it will absorb them back into its body, healing it. After it's done some of these attacks, it will dive back into the void pool in the center of the arena and become invincible. It will either start a gravity attack where the player is pulled towards the pool while it summons endermites and causes explosions, or a blast attack where crystals rise from the ground while the boss spins around, shooting purple blasts. The crystals reflect the blasts, and the lower health the boss is, the more blasts it shoots out. When you defeat it, a cutscene plays where it shoots laser beams out of its many eyes and then topples over and crumples to dust. Minecraft Dungeons Arcade has a few bosses too. The giant spider spawns in the Cacti Canyon level. The Archillager flies in and enchants a cave spider, making it bigger and stronger. It will bite the player, shoot trapping webs at you, and dash towards you when you get too far away. At the end of the Squid Coast level, the Archillager enchants a royal guard to be the boss, and a mage to assist it. It will attack the player by slamming the ground with its mace, swinging it in a circle, and charging forwards. The final boss is the Obsidian Monstrosity. We see this boss in normal Minecraft dungeons and the Obsidian Pinnacle level, where it appears to be under construction. It uses a variety of slam attacks, a purple mine summoning attack, and a spit attack that's similar to the original Redstone monstrosities. Next, we have Minecraft Legends. This game had 4 different bosses. We see all of them in different cutscenes throughout the game, which I'm not going to cover because that would take forever. When you defeat all of the Horde of the Spore bases, a new base appears, and the cutscene plays where the Devourer comes to the overworld. It will appear towards the outside of the base. It has multiple different attacks, including a slam attack, a long-range spit attack, an acid spew attack, an insta-kill groan attack, and an AoE rupture attack, where this mushroom/cyst thing explodes and does damage. Once you take it down to 70 and 30% of its health, it will jump further into the base, and you must hunt it down. When you defeat it, it throws up all over the place, and the mushroom spore things on its back explode as it collapses. When you defeat all of the Horde of the Hunt bases, the beast comes to the overworld and begins an attack on a village. It will attack the village buildings and your defenses by charging into them and attacking them with its club. It attacks you and your allies by slamming its club into the ground. It will occasionally retreat outside of the village to get reinforcements. If the village attack ends, it will leave and come back the next night. When you defeat it, the hoglin it rides tosses it into the air and it knocks itself out with its own club. The Unbreakable appears when you destroy all of the Horde of the Bastion bases. A new base appears which is heavily defended. You will need to destroy all of the gates to get through to the center, where the boss is waiting for you. It can attack by swiping at the player or its allies, using a flamethrower on them, or shooting magma blasts at them. It can cause magma geysers to erupt by shooting lava into the ground. It can also summon magma cubes from its gauntlet. When you finish it off, the furnace on its back explodes, knocking it down. The final boss of the game is the Great Hog. When all of the Horde leaders have been defeated, a cutscene plays where the Seer enchants one of the Great Hog's spears, which it uses to destroy another portal, forming a new weapon. It then proceeds to attack the Well of Fate. You must make your way there through the overworld. A base will have formed around the well, combining features from all of the different Horde bases. When you reach the center, the Great Hog will notice you and attack. It can throw one of its spears at you, slash at you with it, slam the ground with the staff, and charge towards you while spinning. It can slam both the staff and the spear into the ground, causing it to be covered in fire. When you defeat it, it will attempt to throw its staff to destroy the well, but it backfires, causing all of the piglins to be sent back to the Nether. It then collapses to the ground. Minecraft Story Mode is really complicated. It's hard to determine what counts as a boss and what doesn't. As far as I'm aware, there isn't a classification in-game of what a boss is, but the game clearly has boss fights. I was just going to go with what the Minecraft wiki says, but it doesn't count the Witherstorm as a boss, and if I'm sure of anything, it's that this massive monstrosity has a boss fight. So I ended up counting all of the big climactic battles at the end of each episode, as long as they have one. But before we talk about those, I want to mention the Ender Dragon. You never fight it throughout the game, but it's a boss in normal Minecraft, so it's worth mentioning. At the beginning of the game, we learned that the Order of the Stone, a group of 4 heroes, defeated the Ender Dragon and became legends. But as the game goes on, we learn that the Order lied. Soren, the leader of the group, used the command block to erase it from existence. We see it in the visual retellings of these stories. There isn't really a boss fight in episode 1, but in episode 2, Jesse and Gabriel or Petra, depending on who you saved from the Witherstorm, take on Ivor in Soren's temple. Ivor is the one who created the Witherstorm, and he's a very important character throughout the rest of both Season 1 and 2. But that doesn't really matter for his boss fight. He uses a golden sword to attack, and uses swiftness, invisibility, harming, and slowness potions. You aren't able to defeat him no matter what you do, and he ends up getting away. The boss of episode 3 and 4 is the Witherstorm. The Witherstorm is created in episode 1 by Ivor. It starts out as a normal wither with a command block in its chest, but throughout the course of the story, it absorbs blocks and becomes bigger and more powerful. It can shoot explosive skulls and has tractor beams that can pull blocks and mobs towards it. It follows Jesse to Boomtown or Redstonia, depending on where you go in episode 2, by tracking the Order of the Stone amulet. In episode 3, Jesse must attempt to craft a Formidabomb while being attacked by the Witherstorm. He almost fails, but he manages to set it off just in time, destroying it. Except in the plot twist of the century, that doesn't finish it off. It reforms, coming back even stronger than ever. By the end of episode 4, it has split into 3, each with 3 heads. Jesse must get inside the storm and destroy the command block with an enchanted weapon. He tricks Enderman into ripping a hole in the side of it and uses a contraption of your choice to get inside, along with his pet pig Reuben. They fight the Witherstorm, chopping through its tentacles and avoiding its head. Eventually, they destroy the command block and the Witherstorm is finished once and for all. It drops a withered nether star. Aiden is the boss of episode 5, Order Up. He appears as a bully/rival character in previous episodes, but he decides to go full villain mode in episode 5. After unleashing mobs onto Sky City, Jesse fights him in the throne room. Jesse fights a Blaze before challenging Aiden in a very climactic battle in the rain. Jesse defeats him and has the option to leave him behind, help him to safety, or push him off the edge. If you help him, he decides to redeem himself and help the people of Sky City. If you push him off, he survives and is arrested. The White Pumpkin, aka Cassie Rose, is the boss of episode 6, A Portal Mystery. She is responsible for killing multiple YouTubers throughout the level. She also has a cat named Winslow. She attempts to throw Jesse and his friends into a pit full of silverfish, which they call endermites for some infuriating reason. They escape, and Jesse duels with the White Pumpkin. She tries to take his enchanted flint and steel, but they fight her off and knock her into her own trap. PAMA, which stands for Prototype Autonomous Management Agent, is a rogue redstone computer who's trying to quote-unquote make everything useful by taking control of their brains with computer chips. It was created by Harper, the old builder, who took control of everything in its world and wants to expand to other worlds. Jesse attempts to shut it down by breaking the redstone with water and removing the redstone heart. It will attack him with mind-controlled mobs, Harper, and either Petra or Lucas, depending on who you chose to save earlier in the episode. As you rip out its heart, it will beg for its life, but if you choose to let it live, it will kill you. All of the mobs and people under its control are set free. The final boss of episode 8, A Journey's End, is a duel fight with Hadrian and Mevia, two of the old builders. They are the ones who created the games to entertain themselves. They actually end up killing Jesse, but because of the game world's properties, he respawns. His friends then help him get new tools and armor. He fights both of them, first pushing Mevia into a piston crusher and then breaking the blocks from beneath Hadrian to do the same to him. Depending on what you chose for the first decision of the game, they will be sent to a dimension full of zombie-sized chickens or chicken-sized zombies. In Season 2, you fight the Prismarine Colossus in Episode 1 and 2. In the first 2 episodes, it's controlled directly by Romeo. It appears in the Prismarine Temple where it tries to kill Jesse and his friends. They manage to escape, but it follows them back to Beacon Town. At the beginning of Giant Consequences, it forces Jesse to fight it while attacking the town and its people. It has a weak spot on the back of its head which Jesse uses to defeat it. A glitched version of this mob appears in the terminal space, this time not controlled by Romeo. This is an optional fight, but I'll count the Icy Golem as a boss. The Icy Golem appears if you choose to go with Lucas and Radar to the Ice Palace. They look like iron golems, just desaturated and wearing a pumpkin, like a snow golem. It has multiple phases, first throwing snowballs at you from a distance until you break its legs and it switches to attacking by slamming the ground. When you kill it, you take its pumpkin to use as a key for a door. The giant ghast is a massive 3-headed ghast that appears at the end of Jailhouse Block. It attacks by shooting groups of fireballs and calling in other ghasts to help it. Jesse tricks the smaller ones into attacking the big one and then finishes it off by stabbing it in its weak spot. The giant magma golem spawns at the end of the Below the Bedrock level, when Jesse and company trick Romeo's combat challenge into getting to level 600. It attacks by spitting fireballs and magma cubes, as well as slamming the ground with its arms. Jesse covers it in water and then breaks the cobblestone it turns into. They then trick it into falling into a giant pool of water. Romeo, aka the Admin, is the final boss of Season 2. He's the main antagonist throughout the entire season. He creates all of the challenges Jesse has to face, sends him to prison, steals his life, and attempts to cover the world with bedrock. Jesse, Petra, and Jack enter the terminal space to stop him using the gauntlet Fred created. There are multiple phases to the fight. He first appears as Voss in the Sea Temple arena. He attacks by growing big and punching Jesse, but Jesse uses the gauntlet to take some of his power. In the second phase, he appears as the Snow Golem from the Icy Tower, just with red coloring instead of blue and Iron Golem arms. He attacks by slamming the ground, summoning blue fireballs, and spinning in place while snowballs appear. In the final phase, Romeo takes the form of either Jack or Petra, depending on who you let the admin control in episode 3. He attacks you with his sword. Once you finish the fight, you punch him with the gauntlet one more time, taking the last of his powers. When you do, you can either leave him in terminal space to die, or save him by taking him with you. And with that, we've covered every boss that's ever appeared in Minecraft. This one was one of my favorites to do so far. Some of these are really cool. Let me know which one of these was your favorite. This is the second video in a row that's been over 20 minutes long, but the next video should be shorter and release sooner. Don't forget to vote in the poll for the next episode. That one should release in 2 or 3 months. But anyway, have a great day and I'll see you next time.